Welcome to NC Tweener Talks, powered by NC Idea, a weekly podcast by builders for builders, where we explore the startup journey from the idea to the exit and all the lessons in between, with an exclusive focus on founders from North Carolina. Now, here's your host, serial founder and general partner of the NC Tweener Fund, Scott Wingo.
First, a huge thank you to our platinum sponsor. NC Idea Foundation strengthens the economy of North Carolina through a strategic combination of grants and programs deployed directly and through a network of partners in furtherance of their vision to help people achieve their entrepreneurial potential. First, a huge thank you to our gold sponsors. Today's Tweener Talks is sponsored by EisnerAmper. As one of the world's largest business consulting firms, EisnerAmper brings specialized industry knowledge to the tech sector with tailored solutions in accounting, tax, advisory, and outsourcing. Explore how our technology practice can drive your company forward with stage-specific solutions. We'd also like to recognize our silver sponsors. Today, we are featuring Automated Consulting Group. Ready to transform your business with AI? Automated Consulting Group delivers executive workshops, fractional CAIO guidance, and custom AI solutions built for your business. Thank you again to all of our sponsors for supporting the North Carolina Tweener Talks and the entire Tweener community. It takes an ecosystem to build a thriving community, and sponsors like these are invaluable. Welcome to this episode of North Carolina Tweener Talks. I'm excited to present our second of our content drops from the Triangle's first ever OpenClaw Meetup that was held April 9th here at Raleigh Founded. In this talk, our friend Ryan Eade presents a product builder's guide to OpenClaw. While he was building his personal assistant on OpenClaw, Ryan discovered that there were some missing pieces that he thought would make his and your life easier. He has now open sourced his contribution. You can find it on GitHub, and he's going to talk about it in this talk. I will not reveal anything more, but I think you're going to like it. These are very bite-sized pieces of content, usually under 20 minutes, so I hope you enjoy it. Ryan is a key member of our burgeoning new Tweener Claw community, and you're going to hear a lot more about Tweener Claw shortly. I hope you enjoy this talk.
So I actually changed my thought a little bit this week because we first started talking about the Meetup. I didn't want to talk about, and I knew if I gave it another month, I'd probably change the topic. So today I actually just had my OpenClaw to read my entire presentation. And what was helpful was seeing Robbie's presentation, Corey's presentation, your presentation, and I fed it back to my OpenClaw today and said, anything that they went over, pull out of the presentation, pull up other stuff in. So that was helpful for me to make sure that I get too much covered. So appreciate everybody coming out tonight. My name's Ryan. I'm going to try to speed through this because we're a little tight of time. But first I'm going to start off with how I'm using OpenClaw because there's a ton of ways you can use it. One of the ways I started off first was nothing to do with work or coding. I just wanted kind of an executive assistant. And so I didn't buy a vacuum cleaner, but someone's favorite way to do it. We do not need a vacuum cleaner, we're like Studio. If you're going to use Frontier closed source models, you can just run Titan or cut droplet. So up on a DigitalOcean, I spawned up a VPS, install OpenClaw. I use scale to your private network. So how am I doing security? Only things within my private network can get to OpenClaw. So that's one way you can kind of tighten up your security framework, look around it. It's always risky, but if you call this something that calls down, that helps. So one of the areas I'm using my OpenClaw for. So I started off, Rodney talked about wellness and fitness, and I've been running this stream up for this big fight this summer. I'm going to the Scouts, and so I started off with food tracking. I always have this app through the years, take a picture of my food, and I realized it can do that out of the box. If you take a picture, I can send it to it, it will say roughly what the calories are. It's pretty accurate. So I was like, all right, well, how about make me a workout plan? And then remind me every morning when I actually need to do the workout plan. And so that's where I really started with it. And then started working into some other things. I write a lot. I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn, so I needed help ideating what I talk about. How do I get these hundreds of podcasts, newsletters all boiled down to keeping up with it? Because I'm sure all of us feel like you can't keep up with the cutting edge every day. Every day there's something new. So I had to start pulling all that for me, distilling it down, getting me content summaries. I spend about 45 minutes in car every morning commuting. So I had to start using 11 Labs to create a custom podcast. I can't listen to the 50 podcasts a week that are coming out that I want to, so now I just sort of kind of shrink it all down And 11 labs is out free, you get a little bit of free tokens. I'm like, it is pretty fast. But for me, that's like 30 minutes every day, and it's just optimized to create stuff. And then lastly, I get into how to streamline my workflow with some software product development. So I used my agent to create this today and threw it up on Gamma. I don't know what's all the text. I'll show it in the feature though. So I started off with one mega agent on OpenClaw doing all things with Telegram, and that worked great. And so I started all these different processes and contexts, started getting real squeezed, and then middle of conversations, they've had some niche, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's literally 4 inches ago, and it's super frustrating. So I decided I need to figure out a better way to handle context. So the first thing I did was I moved from Telegram to Slack. And I don't have a big team. It's just me right now working on some side project stuff. So the main move to Slack was to get dedicated channels per topic. And at first I was a health topic, it was a topic for project management, it was a topic for my little ideas for things I wanted to build. And the good thing about the Slack connection with OpenClaw is each one is its own channel on the OpenClaw database. It kind of maintains the link separate context aware. So you're still going to run into context issues, but it's not just free. And then the next thing I did was I started splitting out into multi-agents. You do not need a fleet of factories to run like full instances. You could run one OpenClaw instance on one server. It's not compute intensive, so you're not going to be held back by CPU unless you're trying to run open models. RAM doesn't need a ton if you're mostly working on or ChatGPT or dev models. It's really lightweight. So there's a feature built into OpenClaw where you can get with multiple claw agents that work with it under one gate. And they're all sandboxed. So like context does not flow between them. You can build processes outside of that to share context, but out of the box, it creates kind of a separate multi-instance. It's kind of like virtualization for your agents. And so I started there, and I my agents were named after parks and rec characters. So my name's Ryan, but always goes to the next step. Running joke every time it says Siri, flex Ryan, Siri is Ron. And so we started off your OpenClaw, and we added April as my dev, we've got Ben as the QA agent, and Leslie as content and strategy. So they each have a smaller set of context now. So if I'm as much context for the base, and how to break off the resets, which a couple things I did to help with the configuration. First off, memory management of OpenClaw is pretty good out of the box. You can stick with what's configured, or you can give it a little bit of extra help. One of the things I did was QED is an open source framework. It's basically just a query language for Markdown. It's a lot more efficient than what's built in. From there, you can put in the 3 layers of your system. And so throughout the whole process of using OpenClaw meetings, as we work through different things that needs to reset context, it immediately dumps that out to a file, and then it compacts those into daily files, topic-based files, and all that automatically. And that helps with going back and later pulling things. Hey, remember we worked on this last week? If you go pull that, you can also find that pretty quickly. In addition to the memory management, the other thing that helps with is as you're working with different projects and you start having things you do want to share within the different projects, having that markdown file-based helps with sharing from that projects because you can start copying some of that. There's some settings built into OpenClaw that define how it keeps those chat messages going. I get it set to basically retain the last 20 messages. So if a context reset happens, it always dumps the last 20 messages from that chat channel back into context to start line. That pretty much keeps that amnesia issue from happening because it's always got at least the last little bit of conversation. And so you don't have that weird issue where I'm typing a message and mid-conversation forgets what we're talking about. And so memory flush was the option thing you can do to save notes before it don't have context impacts. And so that just basically tells it, if I'm about to hit a context reset, write everything in files. If you're using Cloud, you're probably used to seeing that little percent left, tick down on the anxiety, get up, and you're like, I don't want it to stick back to me, so write everything you just did, this logging action works a day, or it's going to be important like this. Mental notes don't survive resource almost 2%. Everyone starts to. I always read things about writing down so you can for meetings. All right, model strategy. This got more interesting. Last week did when we all got on Max no longer allowed to be used. No more all-you-can-eat buffet, no big buffet pizza for our elves anymore. I had to kind of scramble to figure out a new strategy. I was using a lot more than I was staying forward Pod Max, like Meetup for poly usage core. And so I had to figure out a way to kind of flatten out a little bit. So I have started focusing different agents on different models. Some I need really hard thinking, like Ron is my journalist, to do everything. And then I get them set up where heartbeats, that's not mine. Most of the heartbeat stuff is just reminders to and stuff. So you can configure an agent per model. You can also say heartbeats, cons, do it different levels. You can also create a chain of failed act. Fallback to is very robust advantage. I think there would be that happening. But this is kind of the overall buffet I've got so far. Codex is great for doing code reviews, and so my QA agent is using that just for that adversarial review process. So just quick, you can do per agent, per config, if that manager costs that. All right, so what can you build with OpenClaw? I moved beyond just using it as a personal agent, started wanting to build things. The first thing I built is a task management system. It's on and it's out there. So I started off building a task management system, and it started off as something simple in a way because if you're talking about work stuff, chat looks great. You realize after a while like it's really hard to keep up with what's going on in chat, and then you want to talk about stuff up here. And there's threaded chats in Slack, but it just makes it super complicated. So what I did was I built a dashboard that lets me manage all. And so it's got what's currently being worked on by agents and heartbeats around them. This is just some sample data. But as it's working through different tasks, some different coding activities for me, it'll spin up sub-agents behind the scenes, and those sub-agents are set up where they will have this task, and they will start reporting back what they're working on. So if you're used to having quad code array of windows for your terminal, you can see it all through a GUI. This is my UI way of doing that with agents that are running one VPS remotely. Behind the scenes, it does use the quad code CLI for most of the coding tasks. So it can still set out in that mode and track the link back for me so I can see what's going on. The way that I connect this beyond OpenClaw is what if I was set on a local quad code instance to run some code or run through some tasks, but I need to pull down the context that I'm storing here. Because I have a lot of context, project level, what the tasks are, what's the current code base. And so I created an MCP builder that you can pull into Cloud Code, and therefore Cloud Code can talk in the spot. And so I'm going to open source this and get this put out there. I'm not quite ready for that yet. But what I wanted to talk about was what can you build and just start looking at things like that. And so one of the early issues I ran into, one of the first things I wanted to build, this is already introduced, is called Sparky. So if you've used Cloud Code, or sorry, OpenClaw, and you have ASCII to give you some data, they'll create ASCII tables, it'll use emojis, it'll do the best as it can in those chat windows. But sometimes it's just not enough. Sometimes I miss having a time to my workout or a graph with my praise word today or a summary of what I've eaten. Or maybe I want to create a shopping list to go. There's a lot of ways to link to all these different tools, but I wanted something more simplistic. So what I built was an Ephemeral UI framework. It's very lightweight, it's open source, you can pull it down, and when you ask your OpenClaw to do something, if it matches one of the use cases that are built in, it will create a UI on the fly and create a UI requires no on it, it's got a hatched UID on it, and then it'll send that to you through whatever chat framework they're using. And so with that, you get microlinks for all these little tasks you're doing in your OpenClaw. And you can create one for a shopping list and send it to your significant other that's going to the store, and you can both share in real time what's going on. You can add something to the list and they'll be on their side. So it spins up these really quickly. The framework behind it, it's back to Redis, so it's not doing any long-term persistent storage. So it's in-memory storage, do some active restart. But the cool part is if you're already running in OpenClaw on the server, you can post this framework from your OpenClaw and it can be self-hosted for it. It's not providing third-party sites. So it's got a bunch of templates built in. It's got different components they can build from. You can go find it on Spark UI dev. We're going to do experiments and see if we can come out of the VPS server right now. So earlier I created one before this and threw this QR code in there. And so if you want to scan the QR code and so it'll work for us, should be a survey that gives us data. And then once you pull that up, you can vote on an item and it'll start scoring that good times. And that's the backslash another OpenClaw server and all that everyone strong is going to be qualified. Quick test. Most people crashed the server. I wasn't sure how many people was going to be decided to. All right, so here it was. Where are you going? Oh no, we're doing that live. right? So for those who aren't scanning it or looking at it, a couple of examples of what it looks like when it generates. So macro tracker for the day. If I say show me a summary of what I've been doing today, so I make some better choices there. Gives me a really quick UI. And for workouts in the running, it can do timers. It's interactive. Context can flow back to your OpenClaw on your own. So instead of telling it, this is what I did for my workout, after you finish that, and just flow it right back to the shot decision. So I think the Ephemeral UIs are actually a lot of really features going. SaaS is still going to be a thing for a while, but the LLM is getting stronger, the models are getting better. It's getting better tools to communicate with us. I think the chat window is needing to say about it. I think these UI frameworks are more how we're going to see microapps forming and just-in-time interfaces built for the tasks we caught it to do. So experiment, pull it down and see if it works for you. Last couple takeaways, move to side with waveforming, tier your models, only use complex models for complex tasks, no waste tokens, especially if you're paying for them. And then give agents real specs, teammates, chatbots, better rules you give them, better context you give them, the better they can think about it. Appreciate it. There's a couple links, Spark UI, I have a Substack focus on features and writing all this stuff out, and follow me later. Clarabit is the task framework that I just talked about, and then Meetup on. Thanks.
NC Tweener Talks is hosted by Scott Wingo, presented and produced by NC Tweener Fund, which is powered by NC Idea, with creative assets and design support from our friends at WalkWest. That's it for today's episode. A big thank you to our guests, sponsors, and the team that makes this podcast possible. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves the startup stories coming out of the North Carolina Tweener Talks